Today's topic, the key to everything. To get everything that you desire. To make anything happen in your life that you want. To be successful. To be happy. To walk in peace and harmony. This is what we're going to talk about today. Because it's not that difficult if you have the right mindset. And I want to say, especially if you start early. But even if you start late, kind of late like I did. Because the one thing for sure, say you're struggling all of your life and you're really never feeling satisfied. And then finally you hit maybe age 50 or 60 and then you're satisfied. Are you going to not embrace the good fortune? Or are you going to be just as happy as you would have been had this happened when you were 20 years old? Give a real situation like the lottery. So you've been playing the lottery for like 10 or 15 or 20 years, since you were maybe 35 or 40 years old. And then finally when you're 55 or 60 years old, you finally win. Are you going to be disappointed because it took you that long to win? No. Because there's a funny thing about life and about how we think. Our minds are not as old as our bodies, okay? Our bodies grow old, but our mind is the same as it's always been. Your mind is just recognizing you can't get that body to cooperate like it used to, but you're the same person. There is no age to who you actually are. There's an age to your body. So no matter when that windfall comes, you're going to be thrilled, okay? But I'm telling you, you really don't have to wait that long. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, how to get there. I just wanted to share that with you. As many of you know, let me give you a bit of my history. So I was in the military in the 70s. Short time I went to work for the B&O Railroad. I went to work for NCR Corporation. I was there for 13 years. Took a buyout in 1994. 5 months later, I became a mailman. And so far, 31 years, and I'm still there. Okay? And you might say, well, Martin, how are you going to talk about success if you're still a mailman, still carrying mail? Just wait and see. Because everybody's been telling me to retire. My wife's telling me to retire. All my friends, family members, retire, Martin, retire. I'm like, why? Why do I need to retire? And it's this mindset that I want to share with you. It's going to be the key to the success and to the happiness and to the harmony that we're going to talk about today. And so let me just jump right into the me part. Why don't I retire after 31 years? Well, look, and many of you have heard my story, but it's very pertinent to this particular program, so I'll do a brief, summary, of my life as the mailman, okay? So I started carrying mail at 34 years old, and I'll be 67 this year in 2025, just in a couple months from now. And I'm in pretty good condition for a man my age. Now, why is that? Okay, I started at the post office carrying mail in the hood when I was 34 years old, right out of the corporate environment, and I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. It was like 100 degrees outside, I'm walking, miles with a 70-pound bag on my back. I mean, I was used to sitting in a cubicle. How am I going to pull this off? But then I go home and I look at my 4-year-old son, and it's like I had to feed him, so I had to do that job. And it's 31 years later. But so while I was doing that job, I had this epiphany. I had this revelation about myself. If I have to walk 20 miles a day, which is what I was walking, that's exercise. So I'm going to double up on the exercise. So I decided, no, I wasn't just going to exercise. I guarantee you, if I wasn't doing that job, I wouldn't be exercising. I'm not the most disciplined person in the world, but you can create that discipline in you, and that's what I did. So I figured, man, since I have to walk this 20 miles a day, I have to do this exercise. Why don't I just double time it the whole time I'm at work? Because the truth be told, being a mailman can be, for some, like me, a tedious job, kind of boring. So I had to make it a little exciting. So what I'd do is I'd leave the office with all this mail, and then I'd just goof around for about an hour and a half or 2 hours, and then I came down to the point where I had to double time that route all day, or I wasn't going to get back to the office in time. And that was my motivation. That's what I did, and it kept it exciting. That was my exercise. So it wasn't long after I started doing that, I thought, since I have to exercise every day, from the time I go to work until the time I get off of work, why don't I just eat right? Just from the time I get up in the morning until the time I get off work. So I started doing that. Okay. And lo and behold, in the course of that, maybe 10 years into it or so, I started exercising. I started working out. I started doing this martial art cardio, which was like 1,000 punches and 900 kicks. There's a whole story behind that where I had an injury, and so I picked up this particular exercise regimen to try to strengthen my injury. Okay, but nonetheless, no matter the reason, I added this workout to my daily repertoire. Okay, and so that's what I did for like 15, 20 years or so, double time in a 20-mile route, eating healthy from the time I got up in the morning, and incorporating even with that an exercise plan. Okay. Yeah, and what I also did, when I turned 50 years old, so that was like 15 years or so into my mail route, Obama became president. And I had another epiphany. I'm like thinking, this brother is younger than me, has a Harvard education, is a Harvard law professor, and Harvard trained attorney, senator of Chicago, and now president of the United States. And I had a high school diploma. So I decided just to get an associate degree so I can feel like I did something. I got some extra education. And that's what I did. The only thing was I didn't stop. I got my associate degree, then I earned my bachelor's degree, then I earned my MBA, all within a 10-year period. By the time I turned 60 years old, I had those 3 degrees. Man, that was amazing to me. So what have I demonstrated before you here? That first of all, you can get in shape if you want to. You just have to figure out a way to do it. And then walk it out. I mean, literally, as the mailman, walk it out. Then formulate a plan and then walk it out. As well, you begin to, look, I calculated while I was carrying mail about halfway through or so that I had walked the circumference of the earth 4 times. Imagine that. 4 times I've walked the circumference of the earth. Who would ever imagine themselves doing that? No one. But the amount of steps that it took and the amount of steps I was taking daily, 4 times around the earth. Imagine what a confidence builder that is. Now, it could be kind of tiresome thinking about how long you've been walking, but really, for real, it's a confidence builder. And that's what you need to be successful in life. I'm telling you, just the confidence. So do little things to build your confidence. So my confidence in walking around the earth 4 times. My confidence in how healthy I was for a person my age, and I was getting healthier. And as well, those 3 degrees. How many people do you know between the ages of 50 and 60 get their associate degree, bachelor's degree, and MBA? Not too many. I'm one of those. Each time you have an accomplishment that most people can't do, it builds your confidence. And confidence is the key to success in anything in life. It's just the believing in yourself. As I got that degree, that last degree, the MBA at age 60. Guess what I did at age 62? I became scuba certified. Only because my daughter was going on a trip with her schoolmates in the 11th grade, and she wanted to be scuba certified, so I was going to take her to her lessons. Turned out she needed a dive partner. I'm Dad, right? So guess who else got scuba certified? I've been scuba diving, for real. Imagine the confidence in that. How many people do you know? I didn't know any that scuba dive. Okay, confidence building. And so what we're talking about is being successful in life. And what I'm sharing with you is to be successful in life, all you need is the confidence. Because that's all that's standing in between you and being successful, you and being happy, you and having a harmonious and peaceful life is the confidence. See, we put so much stock. I don't want to give people too much credit for their role in sabotaging our success. And I want to tell you, no, it's nobody's fault. And I want to say, look in the mirror. I don't even want to say blame, but that's the cause of success. That's the cause of lack of success, is yourself. And so there's nobody else to blame. As long as we're blaming folks for our lack of success, we're never going to get there. Because the truth be told, there's no other individual on this planet that's actually preventing you from your success. So as long as you're taking your time blaming someone else, lamenting on their antics as to why you're not successful, you're never even going to get up to start walking because you think you're defeated before you ever got there. You're going to have to build your confidence. And if you don't have the confidence, you're going to have to find little ways to build your confidence. Begin taking on little tasks, taking on little things, little accomplishments that will begin to build your confidence. Because that's all you need. See, well, that's not all you need. but you really, really need confidence. And my reasoning is, we have a lot of blame that we can put out there, that we can point fingers at to determine why we're not the way we are. Black people, we can point at white people. White people, you can point at Mexicans or black people, affirmative action, or whatever you want to call it. And this whole kick on this DEI, which is absolutely ridiculous, but it's just another thing that folks grasp onto to justify why they're not successful. And I'm telling you, I don't care what culture you come from, what race you are, what religion you are, if you are blaming someone else for your inability to succeed, that's just a convenient excuse, because you really don't have the confidence to succeed. Because it really wouldn't matter what other folks do. Man, I had a buddy, a real good friend of mine. He was actually in my wedding. And he was all caught up in these conspiracy theories, the Rothschilds, the Illuminati, and how all of the presidents are related, if you go through their family trees. But guess what? If you go into the family trees far enough, you're related to those presidents as well. It's just a matter of time and generational crossing those family trees and all. But my reality that I tried to share with this good brother is, look, is that whether these conspiracy theories are correct or not, just say they are correct. And you don't know. So now, off the time, you don't know. So now you're spending your time just believing something that you don't know is true and allowing that to hamper you or to keep you down. That's ridiculous. And the only person who's being hurt is you. But let's take it from the point, say the conspiracy is true. What's that got to do with you on your level? Nothing. So if all of these conspiracies are true, what I'm suggesting that in your bubble of existence, in your sphere of existence, that conspiracy hasn't anything to do with you. You can be wealthy, you can be happy, you can be rich, you can have all the things that you desire in your life within the bubble of your existence, never affected by those conspiracy theories, even if they're true. And maybe I want to give an example of maybe that whole border issue everybody's been tripping about. There have been people coming over that border for probably ever since I've been around. I know from my mother's time, from my grandmother's time, forever, people have been coming over that border. This is nothing new. But see, the politicians can bring something that doesn't even affect you in the least personally, that you've never felt any kind of effect from, and get you all riled up about it, man. And now this is your consuming. Man, I was talking to this guy. This is a buddy of mine. Most of where I work, most of us are veterans, and he's an Army vet. And he's a good guy. He used to be religious. Good guy. I love talking to him. He got so riled up about the border issue. He said, man, I could just go down there with a gun and just start shooting people. I'm like, have you ever been to the border? No. I said, how do you know all that stuff is really true? Because that's what he heard. And so what I'm suggesting is he's so consumed in this border issue that he's never even experienced even a taste of, and it's consumed his life and prevented him from being a happy, harmonious, functioning individual. You see, we can buy into stuff that doesn't even affect us. Don't worry about stuff like that. Just do what you need to do to be well. I guarantee you, all these politicians, I don't care whether you're on the right or the left, they're all wealthy. Most of them are college degrees. Many of them are attorneys, and they have large bank accounts, large investment portfolios. But they're feeding us all this fodder, all this stuff that's making us angry, making us mad at the other party, mad at other individuals. But they're not allowing that stuff to consume them so much to negatively impact their revenue. We are, okay? See, so you got to be able to be confident in yourself. You got to be able to not allow exterior things to be affecting you in your world to prevent you from being what you can be, okay? I guess that's two things, right? Next thing maybe is be flexible. Be flexible. There's no apparent order to this. Maybe I should have had some acronym, but I don't. But be flexible, because things may not come out the way you intended. But look at all the inventions we have, like Thomas Edison, all the inventors, Alexander Graham Bell, all the inventors. Most of the inventors that came up with these scientific discoveries and all, whatever they ended up with was not the thing they intended or the thing they started out trying to create. But then they came up with this. Okay, we'll use this. Probably many foods, tasty foods and cereals and drinks the same. It was like, oh, well, that didn't work, but look what we got here. Okay, be flexible. I was speaking to someone today, or yesterday, an Uber driver, and she was telling me that she was, I think she was in the second or third year of college, and she was getting herself a business degree. And you know, a lot of people look down on business degrees, like look down on philosophy degrees, psychology degrees, and all that. I don't. I encourage, but I try to redirect the focus of the individual so they'll not be disappointed. We have to be flexible. See, if you're not attempting to get a degree in like a specialized, vocation, like being a doctor or an engineer, or an attorney or something specialized like that, your degree is not worthless, but you might have to be more flexible, okay? Especially if you want to make more money, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is, and what folks need to understand is that degree is proof that you have the ability to problem solve, okay? And see, remember, we're going back to that confidence, because the proof is not to prove to anyone else. This proof is to prove to yourself, to give you that confidence. Because if you're just going out in the workforce trying to find a job to match up with this business degree that you just graduated from a four-year university from, you're going to be sorely disappointed probably in the money that you're going to be offered, okay? So what I'm suggesting is you need to recognize that in order to make it through school 4 or 5 years and graduate, you have the ability to problem solve very well. You were looking at homework, you were looking at assignments, you were looking at the right grades, passing passing a whole bunch of courses, in order to get that bachelor's degree or even an associate degree. And so what you need to understand is you have the ability to problem solve. And so when you get into the real world, it's not just going to NCR or going to Rails and Rails or going to some company to get in their business program. But it's recognizing that you just need to find a way to make a lot of money. That's your assignment. You have one assignment. You did all those assignments, all that homework, all those projects, all those papers you had to write and turn in. But you have one assignment now once you graduate from college. And that assignment is to make a whole lot of money. Legally, okay? I want to say legally, okay? For real. And that's what you have to do. And so you have to just figure out ways, man. I had this guy, we had a pretty large yard. We were having some people come over for the 4th of July. And so we wanted like mulch laid down. And so all around our trees and our bushes, but there were weeds coming. I mean, it was a lot of work. And this guy came down. He was a young guy, and he a young white guy. And he was, we found him on that little, that little app where you can find people that will do work for you. And he came over and he did that job. And while we were talking, when we were setting up the deal and everything, he was on spring break. He was had a master's degree, working on his PhD, and just taught at one of the local colleges. And this is what he was doing during summer break. And this guy was good at it. And then when I was talking to him, it turned out like his grandfather had a lawnscaping business, and he used to work with him, and that's where he learned to do all this stuff. And he was a doctor, environmental scientist type doctor, all that kind of good stuff. And what I saw in him, I said, man, I know you're going off to pursue this degree, and it's going to be a very good thing, but this is another form of income. Have this business, have people working for you, create this business that you know so much about. He was able to calculate how much product he needed, how many hours it was going to take, and how he was going to charge us based on that, so him and 2 other employees were going to get paid. That's a pretty good skill. So right now, this guy's looking at, he's got whatever his education is going to give him. He can teach college. He can do lawn work on the side, plus his environmental degree, a PhD, is going to bring him revenue as well. Find as many ways to make revenue, okay? And that's your problem solving. It's not that I have a business degree, so I have to find a company to work for. No, do that too, okay? And I know a guy, he's a mailman. He's a mailman from Haiti. And I work with him. He's a sharp brother. He's got a bachelor's degree. And so he's making mailman money. And his wife is a doctor. He's also got a trucking company. This is a young guy. He's like in his 40s. And young to me, that is. And he's also got a lawn care company. He does our grass, every other week, for sure. Because this guy realized He's got to bring that money in. Problem solving. Now for me personally, I waited a long time. So as far as my degree, I went to, as I said, went to school at 50 years old, got my 3 degrees when I was 60. But I didn't get them to earn money with. I just got them to prove something to myself. As it turned out, a confidence builder for this program, right? For you, who hopefully is younger than I was. Or even early on, I mean, I made pretty good money as a mailman. And my wife, she makes real good money now, but she wasn't then. She wasn't making any money for the first 4 years after our child was born, our daughter was born. So I had to find a way to bring in more revenue. And so what I did was I bought this book. It was called How to Buy Bank-Owned Properties. And I studied that book for about 4 days. And within 30 days, I bought my first bank-owned property. That property cost me $26,000. I had a 401k. I know everybody frowns on it. I know everybody says don't do that. But all I saw was this was the money I worked for. This was investment money. I was just going to take this investment money and put it in another investment. It's almost like, to me, it was like the difference between water and ice and vapor. You know, it's all the same thing, just in different form. So I took that money. I actually took $30,000 out. I took $26,000 to buy the house. I took the other $3,000 and have hired some contractors to fix it up, and then I just took the other $1,000 and just spent it on myself because I needed something, to feel good, right? So and it worked. Put it together. I've had a tenant in there for I don't know how many years, about 8 or 9 years or so. Man, I calculated recently. I've made $94,000 from that $29,000 investment. $94,000. And that house that I bought then for $26,000, it's worth $185,000 right now. Okay. And so I'm just saying, so I found a way to add that much, maybe 13, you can do the math, 13 to 15 or so $1,000 to my income as a mailman, all right? And as well, I'm investing in my 401k as well and building up years for postal retirement, 31 years so far, and counting. As well, Social Security. I've been unemployed about 5 months since I was 17 years old. That's 50 years of working. So no matter what your situation is, so my education level was low until I hit 50 to 60 years old, but still I problem solved and found other ways to raise my income, to raise that revenue, okay? And so that's what I'm suggesting about the college. College is that it gives you the opportunity to learn. To me, the college courses are fun because I love learning, okay? But to me, the most important course that you learn in your entire 4 years of college is that course called problem solving. Because you can take that skill, go anywhere in the world, and be successful. All you have to do is look at the situation and problem solve and figure out how I'm going to make money in this situation. It's not difficult. And I don't want to digress, but you could use that problem solving in every aspect of life. You can use it with your kids, raising your kids, having a family, how to function at work, on the job, with employees, problem solving, understand, finding your keys. I can find anything that's lost in the house because I have this concept of problem solving, the exercises that I do. Man, okay, let me digress to a bit. When I talked about the workout with 1,000 punches and 900 kicks, what happened there was I had this abdominal injury. I'm getting hyped a lot of times, and so I was trying to exercise, and I had these 25-pound dumbbells. I don't think I've ever shared this on the air with you. And so I was just using those, man. I'm going to build up something, my lower body or something, because I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I just know I get motivated. So evidently, I was in the wrong position, sitting down to be doing these dumbbells, and pulled something terribly in my abdomen. Folks thought I had a hernia, double hernia. Man, it was jacked up for months and months. But I did run across this workout routine, martial art workout routine, that I figured since 3% of my body was hurting, and if I exercised the other 97% of my body, the good part, the part that was well, that strengthening would encroach upon that weakness, and in time I'd be well. And it worked. Okay. Why did I share that? Because that's another example of problem solving. How do I fix this abdomen issue? I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. Man, I was on the internet. I was trying to find teas. I was trying to find things to eat. I was trying to find other exercises. I couldn't find anything, but I never stopped trying. And then one night I was sitting down there. It was like 2 in the morning, and man, my hand was on my stomach. And I'm like Al Bundy. I'm watching TV, and this infomercial comes on advertising this Power Kata by, it was Beachbody's, Les Mills Power Kata or something like that. And I'm like watching them do this martial art thing. It's like 40 minutes long, and every kick and every punch, I already know. I was a martial artist coming up, so I know how to do all of those moves they were doing in this Power Kata, and it was intense. So man, I bought that infomercial. I had promised myself years before I was never going to buy another infomercial again. Guess what I did that night? I spent $60, bought that infomercial. And I was smart about it. Here goes the problem solving. My problem solving is always working even when I'm not realizing it. So I get these discs in the mail with different type workouts. The only one I'm interested in is that Power Kata. There's this thing with the weights. There's this thing of floor stuff. There's all kinds of stuff. There are like 6 or 7 DVDs in that thing, but all I was interested in was that one Power Kata. And so I took that. I got a flash drive. I copied it to my flash drive because I knew a DVD was not going to last forever. Problem solving. And man, that was like 15 years ago. And I'm still using that same thing. That's 67 years old, I'm still using it. Problem solving. Everything in life is problem solving. You'll stop acting up. You'll start showing up to work on time. You'll start doing a better job. And when you realize that you have the ability to problem solve, I'm talking to people with degrees and people with no degrees. People with degrees, stop just relying on that degree. Because unless you have a special degree, it's not going to bring in that much income. I'm telling you, you got to figure something out. Man, I was talking to this guy, man, and he was like in the military. I was an enlisted man in the military. He was an officer, and I've been talking. And I always feel, and another guy, he was an officer too, a pilot. So we're all talking because our wives and families are friends. And inside, I'm feeling a little insecure, inside because, gosh, these guys are officers. I was just a high school graduate, enlisted man, And this is years later. They're out of the military. I'm out of the military, but still, I felt a little uncomfortable, And then I researched one day, because this one guy got out of the military as a major. And I'm like, so what does a major make? Man, I make more at the post office than a major, and that's not working any overtime. I make more than a major in the United States military. I didn't know that. And then when you begin factoring in my other investments and my house and all these things that I have, it's like, man, I make twice the amount of a major in the military. I didn't even know it. What kind of confidence builder do you think that was? There's all kinds of confidence builders floating around. Okay, money-making opportunities. My wife has a real good money-making opportunity. She owns a preschool. She's doing really well. Well, guess who came up with that idea? Me? Maybe 4 years before she even got involved in that. Back when we were struggling, back when my daughter was born and my wife wasn't working. Man, I've always been doing volunteer work in the community. 17 years at juvenile. I've led feeding programs in the communities, knocking on doors on Saturday mornings. That's just what I've done for years, okay? And I had this idea that I wanted to do something for the younger people because I realized that, the juvenile detention center with the teenagers and all those years, I felt like it was a failure because it seemed like the recidivism rate among those teenagers was almost 100%. But if we could just reach kids when they're younger, man, we can make an impact. So then I got some of my friends from the post office, brought them together. We had a meeting, what we could do, and any brainstorming ideas. We could do this for the kids, do that for the kids, and what age, and all this stuff. Actually, we were meeting in the house that I had purchased, my investment house. That's where the meetings were being held. And we came up with all kinds of ideas, but it never got off the ground. Because the idea was great, I just didn't know how to do it. So I knew how to problem solve. I knew how to solve the situation of watching these teenagers go right back into their life of crime. Attack them when they're young, get them when they're young. I just know how to do it. Okay, so it wasn't my cup of tea. But a few years later, man, check this out. Like 4 years later, I was at the church. And I was speaking to the accountant, because she's a friend of mine, just small talk. I was talking to her, and she looked real worried on her face that day. And I'm like, hey, what's the matter? She said, well, we have a school. They had a school going on. With the state with the ladies with the cards, they'd swipe the cards and all that. They had a program going there. And she said the lady that was running the program got in trouble with the state, and they're shutting the program down. And now the church has this is where their primary source of income was coming from. She was so worried. And I felt really bad for her. Okay. And then I left, while I was still in the driveway, not even to the parking lot, I called my wife on the phone. I said, honey, get your daycare license right now. And you know what, a few times she listened to me. She got her license. And I said, go down there and volunteer to save the day. We had some businesses that were sitting there that really weren't attached to anything where we had started this, started that. We had business names that were registered with the state and all that stuff. And I said, go there and save the day. And say, look, I'll come in, I'll start this, And so while they were in shock, she was the hero, save the day. Now, I told her, do this right away. Because in time, they're going to come to their senses. There are other ones that are more affiliated with the staffing, I was a unpaid staff pastor. There are other people that could get this idea and do the same thing. But while they were in shock, I told my wife right there, make this move right now. Sometimes what they say, you gotta hit it while the iron's hot. Do it now before they realize they can do it themselves. And that's what she did. And that was about, I don't know how many years ago, 7 or 8, 9 something years ago. And it is really, really doing well. I remember when the business was struggling, because every business struggles in the first few years. Everybody knew it. I remember somebody from the church came and offered, I'll give you $20,000 for the business. She came and told me about it. What do you think? Because that was looking pretty good for us at the moment. I said, no, don't do that. This has the potential to make a lot more money. That was nothing. This has the potential to make a lot more. We'll just suck it up and figure it out. I took some more money out of my 401k, covered the overhead a couple times, because I saw the potential in this, and it finally just blew up. Okay? And all I'm telling you, it's just a matter of problem solving. When I heard that the accountant talking about the problem they had, oh man, light bulb went off. Yeah, I'm mooring with you over here for a minute, but right now I gotta make a phone call. Okay? All I'm saying is the situations are out there. And so to me, that's what the education is, recognize the opportunities that are going to come your way to problem solve as you're getting this understanding of how to problem solve. And it's not that you're seeking to learn how to problem solve, it's just that while you're problem solving every course, every assignment, every project, paper, test and quiz and all that stuff, you are gaining all this knowledge of problem solving. So I'm just suggesting that when you go out there in the real world, don't pigeonhole yourself into whatever your degree is, and that's all I'm going to do. No, there's a vast world out there for you. Man, look, after I got this degree a few years later, man, I've written like almost 30 books. Okay, I have podcasts, I have audio, video, stuff on the YouTube, on social media, all that. I even have these avatars that are actually delivering my messages, my transcripts that I put into the program. I mean, there's just it's almost endless, the opportunities that you have. Okay, but we limit ourselves so much because we don't have the confidence. Okay. And really, we let situations, dissuade us. We get caught up in situations that really don't have any real meaning to any substantial effect on our lives, and we let them, and at last, we're not being flexible, okay? Maybe let me add one more thing in there that I think is very important. It's always worked for me. It's be nice. Treat people well. I think one thing the politics has done and the religions have done is sort of given us a blank check to treat people nasty, to treat people mean, to be disrespectful to people. What I'm telling you is what I've learned in my life is that what goes around does come around. You do reap what you sow. There is this thing called karma. So don't be mean, don't be nasty. Politics is a terrible thing for that because it causes you to lose heart, for anybody who doesn't agree with what you believe in, okay? And then so we have to truly examine ourselves. And I'm saying, if you just don't care, about being successful, about any more than you are, if you're not trying to gain more heights or do better things, continue at it. But there is a direct response, experientially to how we act toward other people to what we receive in our lives. I remember, and this isn't political because it can go for any political party, but I remember there was this one political party when Barack Obama became president. It was in this city, Dayton, Ohio, that an air conditioning company put out this big ad in the paper that they were giving a discount to all Tea Party members. I don't, with all the stuff going on today, some of y'all don't even know what Tea Party is, but some of y'all must know. So he put out a big old ad because he was just excited, about this particular wing of his party. So he said, I'm going to give a discount to everybody who's a member. Guess what happened? Everybody in the city who had agreements with him, who had appointments, who already were scheduled for his business, well, half of them weren't in that particular party. So what do you think they did? They canceled their orders. And this guy put in another ad in the paper the following week apologizing for that last message. I'm telling you, don't let the politics drag you into a place where you don't want to be either side, okay? If you want to be successful, if you want to be influential in anyone's life because what you think you're believing is good, whether it's political or whether it's religious, just be the poster child for it. Don't be mean, don't be nasty. Just be the example, sort of like we do before our children. If they see that something is working in your life, and you seem to be a person that's in harmony, self-assured, and happy, and at peace, they might give an ear to your particular perspective, whether it be politics or whether it be religion. Because ultimately, that's what people are searching for. They're not searching for attitudes and rigid ideas about politics or religion. What they're looking for is happiness, like you are, like I am, harmony, peace of mind, walking and success in life, success, financially and all that good stuff. They're not looking for the individual things that turn each one of us on. And I'm just suggesting that one of the key attributes or one of the key features to many of our failures is that we are reaping what we've sown and we don't even realize it. I'm telling you, don't be harmful to people. And it's hard to, in this day of politics, not to be that. It's hard to in religion as well. Everybody's going to hell but for me and my group. Don't do that. Be good, be happy. Especially when you consider that like politics, all politics is, I don't care what political party is, all politics is an individual's opinion. It's not about being right. It's not about whether it's right or wrong. It's about this person and this group have a particular opinion, and so does the other. And it's the same in religion. Nobody from any religion can actually prove that what they've embraced is true. It's just their opinion, okay? Yet we've had wars. We've had killings, we have deaths, we have so much tragedies, catastrophes in the names of politics and religion. And all of those, politics and religion both, are based on opinions. Don't do that. Well, anyway, I've just been throwing some stuff in here. I have some other places to go, but this is enough. This is enough to get you on your way. You treat people right. Build your confidence if you don't have any, and even if you do have any, keep building confidence, because every victory that you have is going to build more and more confidence. My daughter's an example of that, man. She runs 5Ks. And she started running and then liked it and ran another one and liked it and ran it and liked it, and now she's signed up for a half a marathon. Because each victory brings with you a confidence, and that confidence is real. Because the only thing that's preventing us from being successful or beyond even the success that we can imagine at this moment is a lack of confidence. It's all that we need: confidence, flexibility, and treat people right.